Okay, so welcome everybody to our May meeting, Canadian Microsoft Dynamics 365 CE CRM community. We meet pretty much every month and we have a different subject. So we'll be, as said, we'll be recording this. So watch what you say and don't say anything against Microsoft because it'll be recorded and reported to the inner circle. So we got to be careful on that. Today's agenda, we'll do a networking chat. We'll do a Doug intro. What you didn't know you're missing in custom insights journeys.
Sorry.
Okay, so that's CIJ for those in the know, and we might even talk a little bit about some CID today. Okay, so and then we're going to have a secret decoding after a debriefing. So your user group connections are all about connections. So make sure we chat and engage. Share with each other on LinkedIn and be part of the group. And please, we seem to get the same number out month over month, and it would be great if everybody would invite one other new person every month, and then we could keep growing. So keep up the good work, especially thanks Diane for all the work she does really organizing these events. All right, what do we got next? Housekeeping, let everyone participate. Please mute your line when not speaking. Be courteous, respectful interactions at all time, and join our meetup group to stay connected. And there's, not just our meetup group, there's quite a few meetup groups out there. There's one I go to for administrators and another one that I go to for marketers. In fact, the marketers group is probably about 500 or 600 people now, so it's really growing. Okay, on tap today we have Emily and Haley, and they're going to be talking about CIJ. Are we jumping right into that now?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Just getting us all excited for them.
All right. So June 16th and 17th, we're going to have an excellent event in Toronto at the new head office. Well, it's not new. I guess it's like 3-4 years old now, but to us, it's the new head office right downtown Toronto. Very nice a place to have a conference. So it's 16th and 17th. And Diane, correct me if I'm wrong. We're doing F&O and or BC. What are we doing the first day? F&O and Power Platform, and then the second day is BC CRM.
Right.
Yeah. And the reason we broke it up is we are going to go over capacity on the venue. So it's going to be excellent. I can't wait for that. September 11th, we're going to have our, we're going too fast. September 11th, we've got our next session, 9th and the 13th. And if you join our group, you will be notified. Okay.
And then this is just the QR code if you'd like to join us in Toronto.
Okay. And seriously, sign up early because we sold out last time, about a week ahead. So it's a free event. So we get a lot of people joining up. Richard?
I think we're still calling for speakers for that. So
closed.
That closed?
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope you accepted my application. So,
well, now that you're president of a company, we may be able to find a spot for you to say something. Okay.
Position means nothing.
Okay. So these are our meetup. Oh, these are the other Canadian communities for Canadians. We have an ERP Eastern Canada, Toronto, Microsoft East Canada. They're right now focused on Business Central, I think, right? Dynamics 365 Vancouver, which is, I think, BC Power Apps, and then Microsoft GP Power Platform Winnipeg. So that's the pretty much, we might as well call that the Canadian National GP, right? Yeah. Because I think it's the last Great Plains one still rolling around, and a lot of Great Plains users in Canada. Okay. And then some other communities. So these slides will be available. Share your ideas. You want to be a speaker? You want to be a presenter? Please let us know. And we'll try to fit you into our agenda. And this is a great place to, try out some of, if you haven't spoken at a conference before, this is a great place. Find somebody to present with. get to one of the regionals and say, hey, we want to do this presentation. A lot of times they're looking for speakers. And then when DynamicsCon comes up or any of the other conferences or the road shows, you've got sort of experience for the regionals. Okay. All right. Anything else on here, Diane, I missed?
Oh, nope. Now it's off
Okay.
to Madison.
We're not talking about DynamicsCon next week?
Madison will.
Oh, we are. Don't you worry.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Over to Madison.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, Rick kind of went over a lot of it, so I can go pretty quick on these. My name is Madison Zulowitz. I am the event coordinator here at Doug, or Dynamics User Group. So I'm just going to give a quick intro about who Doug is, what all we offer, and help answer any questions that you guys might have. Like I had mentioned before, Doug is a free community for users, implementers, and resellers of Microsoft Business applications. We mainly support Dynamics 365, GP, Power Platform community, and we're really here to help you excel and grow in your personal and professional careers. So we like to host lots of free educational opportunities, whether that is local meetups like this one or regionals. You can go to, oh, that is the next one. Perfect. So our rules of engagement is we essentially ask that these meetups are held to be solely educational. So please no sales pitches, no selling your personal companies or the company that you work for. We want everybody to be able to come here and gain lots of educational content and network with each other. Obviously, where you work comes up often, and that's totally okay to talk about. But please try and refrain from selling your personal business. Dynamics User Group has multiple different platforms. So we have online open discussion forums, which are free to use. So if you have a question, you can post it there and the community will help answer. We have free webinars, free local meetups like this one, as well as regionals, which are in person and usually a little bit larger in scope. We have conferences. We also have a YouTube channel where all of our virtual meetups like this one get posted to YouTube. It's a really great way that if you're ever unable to make this meetup or you're interested in hearing about what people all around the world are talking about, it's a great way to get involved and learn and hear some educational content and network with others in your community. Our DynamicsCon regionals. So these are a little bit larger in scope than our local meetups like this one. They're usually full day to 2-day events, and they're fully in person. We typically have at least 3 separate session rooms for different tracks. We focus on F&O, CE, BC, and Power Platform. And like Rick had mentioned, we are going to Toronto, Canada, June 16th and 17th. If you are local to the area, I would highly, highly encourage you guys to come. It's a really great way to get involved in your community. They're free to attend. We include breakfast, lunch, a social hour, so lots of good networking as well. And it's a really good place to just ask general questions that you're struggling with in your day-to-day job. There are lots of people with tons and tons of education and knowledge that they are willing and helpful to share. So would really encourage you to come and join us. These are our ones in North America. I know most of you are located in Canada, but if you're located somewhere else, these are in North America. And the next slide is our international one. So we're going to Ghana, Kenya, and Copenhagen, Denmark this year. So we're very excited. This is Doug's first time going international this year. So we're definitely growing and excited to kind of expand our horizons. Yes, Rick.
You know, it would be nice, Madison, if they had a call for speakers for all the regional events in one spot. Because people are starting to ask me about these other regional events, and they're all handled kind of differently. So just FYI. Yeah,
Rick, to your point, we've heard this feedback a lot. We're planning on a website update. I don't know if you guys have been to our website. It's a little bit dated. So we have it on the agenda, but our company doesn't really have the bandwidth to do it until after DynamicsCon, but that is listed on the things to update and change. So not everyone has a a Sessionize or a general like portal where you can submit sessions. But if you're ever interested in speaking at one of these local regionals, please send me a message. You can message me on Teams, email, on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to get you coordinated with the leaders at these regionals. And like Rick had mentioned, it's a great place to go ahead and get started in speaking. And if it's your first time speaking, it's a great way to kind of add that stepping stone in your career. And next slide is DynamicsCon. See, I told you we were talking about it, Rick. We have DynamicsCon, which is our largest conference of the year, next week. So May 13th to the 16th. This is a 3-day event. It will be tons and tons of educational content, lots of great knowledge shares there. I think we have over 300 speakers and sessions. Tons of cool, fun networking events that we have planned. Really great way to get involved with your local community as well as a larger community of Dynamics. And yeah, I would highly suggest it's coming up soon. So if you want a ticket, definitely get it now. I would encourage you to do it today if you're planning on coming. Yes, Rick, did you have a question?
We don't have a slide on it, but there's the partner marketing event, which is the pre-show for
Yes.
Dynamics marketing professionals. It's kind of supported by our marketing group. I think we're going to have 150 marketers in the room. So over the last 3 years, this has grown from 50 to 75 to 150 marketers. So if anybody's interested in going to that event on Tuesday, this conference starts Tuesday night. Reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll get you the discount code for it.
Yep. Would really encourage you if you're in the marketing realm at all to join that. It's a good kind of pre-con to go join. And that is all from me. If any of you guys have any questions on anything that I talked about or just anything Doug related, please feel free to message me in the chat or on LinkedIn or via email, and I'd be happy to help. But with that, I'll pass it back over to Diane. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Madison. Okay, Emily, Haley, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you again for joining us. Really excited about this session, and we'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Diane. So I will start sharing my screen now. Perfect. Let me just get myself situated. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today, and thank you to Diane, Rick, and the rest of the group on having us for today. Before diving in, did just want to do a brief introduction of ourselves. Haley, did you want to get started on that?
Sure. My name is Haley Batucan, and I'm the marketing director at C5 Insight. Fun fact, I have zero background in Microsoft before coming into this space. So CIJ has been quite a learning curve, but I also had no experience on how easy and or hard it may have been prior to it, similar to the way that people feel about the old Outlook. I came in and just immediately started using the new of everything because it didn't matter to me, which I just think is kind of funny. So yeah, really excited to be part of this and share how I use CIJ on a regular basis and some of the things that I found really helpful as a marketer utilizing this platform.
Thanks, Haley. And my name is Emily Boiteau. I am the practice lead for business analysis and project management at C5 Insight. So, mostly overseeing our PMO processes, our kind of BA seat and role on our projects. Prior to that, though, I still definitely fill in on as a solution architect. So definitely implementing and configuring and getting into the nitty gritty of customer insights journeys. And so really looking forward to what Haley was saying as well, to just share some of these kind of interesting findings that we've come across along the way. And hopefully there are some key things that the group here can take away and perhaps even use themselves. So to just set some expectations of what our session will be like today, we will be your guides or attempt to be your guides in customer insights journeys. So it's not necessarily a how-to or a training session by us, experts talking at you. we're users just like you. So we're going to be breaking up CIJ into main components and sharing some perhaps lesser known features and functions that we found particularly helpful. And so we're going to be reviewing these features at a high level, explaining its purpose and sharing some examples of how you may utilize them. Our presentation is mixed media, so we have some screenshots, and we'll also be doing some live demos, everyone's favorite thing when they're presenting on a webinar. And because this is not a training session, we are assuming that the folks on this call have at least a base level understanding of CIJ, but of course, please utilize the chat to ask questions along the way. Haley and I are co-presenting, so we're going to be trading off sharing our screens. So one of us will be looking at chat throughout, and we're also going to try and leave some time for Q&A at the end as well. And we'll make sure that a copy of these slides is available for people to access afterwards. And just one more note, you'll see throughout our slides, we have these little blue flyouts that, on this slide here, it says Microsoft documentation. This is just an indication that we've linked some of the Microsoft Learn docs within the slide, just for ease of access for when you do get them, that you can see what exactly we're referencing. And as much as we love getting into the details of how Customer Insights Journeys works, we could probably spend at least 45 minutes explaining the nuances of literally every feature. And of course, I know everyone has a busy day and no one wants to sit through that. So really the goal of this presentation is to paint a picture of what's possible. And hopefully you'll walk away from our session having learned maybe a new feature that you can start using. So here is our agenda for today, and the top level areas that we'll be highlighting, of which we'll be highlighting some features to consider using if not already. We also at the end just want to highlight a few fun items coming as part of the 2025 Wave 1 release. Before jumping in though, I would love to just do a quick poll. You can either maybe type in chat or use the raise hands. How many people here are actively using Customer Insights Journeys? Hands go on hand. Perfect. Okay, great. And then for anyone not using it, are you considering using it perhaps, or any kind of just more interest in it? Awesome, a few hands there. Awesome, okay, cool. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So with that, again, as noted, please feel free to, as we go along today, type any questions as we go. So let's dive into our first area. I'm going to get started with some features within journeys themselves. So journeys at a high level are the automated campaigns, for lack of a better word, that allow you to provide personalized and timely communication based on a specific set of events or actions. So let's start at the beginning, or how your journey is triggered. As you may know, for those of you who do currently use journeys, and maybe for those of you who are interested, you may have a kind of understanding that journeys themselves can be either started as a segment-based or trigger-based. So segment-based meaning you have an existing audience segment or grouping of people that you want to put through this journey and walk them through this set of activities. Trigger-based is more reactive to a change or an action that someone might be taking. Think of this as a form submission, which is then putting them into this journey to then send them a set of actions. Out of the box, Customer Insights provides some triggers for you to utilize to start off your journeys. The one example I gave is a very common use case where someone submits a web form that you have embedded on a website, and you want to put them through a customer journey to send them sets of emails. However, there may be instances where the out-of-the-box triggers just are not exactly what you're looking for, and you actually want to start or trigger your journey based directly on an audience member's action from another related table. And this is where custom triggers can come in to fill this gap for you. These can be set up within a few clicks, and the types of information that you need to know to get these set up are what related table you want to trigger the change from and which column or which attribute should trigger. We have a couple examples here just to kind of contextualize what we mean and how you can actually use custom triggers. So one example here, and this is what I have on my slide, is you may want to send targeted communications to a contact who has a case open within your customer service team. So at some point, perhaps if a case is resolved, you may want to send a link to a customer voice survey or to a post case survey asking for feedback on how their experience was. You can create a custom trigger that as soon as the case stage column is updated, it will put that contact through your journey, and then you can start sending those communications. So that's one example. Another example is perhaps on a lead record. Maybe as soon as you know what source, like where that lead came from, let's say it came from a trade show, whenever that is populated, that will trigger the starting point for that lead to start getting targeted communications and journey activities because of that lead source. So think of it as an attribute or a field can change on a related table, and that will be a starting point for your journey. And so I'm going to actually now pop into my demo environment just to show what I mean here. So in Customer Insights Journeys, you can find custom triggers and create them from our triggers area. And I'm going to open up that case stage trigger that I had open on my slide just to show you what this looks like. Right now, this is in a draft state, so we actually can't use it to create a journey. So I'm just going to actually edit this just to show you that what kind of options exist here. So this area here, when it asks you which table should prompt the trigger to fire, if I open up this drop down, you'll see all of our tables, most of our tables here. So we'll have cases. I'll just scroll down a little bit. You can see maybe event registration, order, quotes, the like. So it doesn't have to be tables that are directly related to the marketing application, but things that perhaps the sales team are interacting with. So things like think quotes and orders, changes to fields from those tables can be used as a starting point to put a lead or a contact into a custom journey. So as mentioned, it's just a kind of few attributes here or a few fields here that you need to populate. And additionally, you even have options here of what type of record should activate this custom trigger. And so you do have options here. An existing record was updated, activate this trigger, or perhaps a new record was created, or any of the above. So there is some flexibility there as well when using these custom triggers. But I know sometimes not everyone knows exactly that how to use them, or maybe that there is some flexibility there. So wanted to highlight some of the customization that you can put into place with custom triggers. Next up for journeys, I wanted to touch on exclude versus exit segments. This is an area that we often find folks sometimes get tripped up on in terms of just when exactly to use these exclusion segments. And because when you're setting up your journeys, there's two separate areas where you'll see reference to exclusion segments, and they're differentiated by whether or not it's an entry or an exit condition. So the first one here that we have is around excluding segments from entering your journey. So this is part of the entry criteria that you set up when you're first creating your journey and determining who exactly is going to enter into your journey. And by adding in a segment here to exclude by, that means that even regardless of what the trigger is or the entry segment, anyone who's listed who is a part of this exclude by segment will just never enter your journey or participate at all. So a couple scenarios where this may be applicable are things like a spring campaign where you want to send messaging around a specific email campaign, but maybe you want to exclude leads in a specific geography. You, for whatever reason, don't want to market to them. Maybe they're in the Southern Hemisphere and it isn't actually springtime for them right now. You could use a segment for that geography that excludes them from ever entering this journey. So exclude segments are preventing people from entering your journey. And then on the flip side of that, there are exit segments. So this is what happens and helps to determine if an audience member becomes a part of a segment, even though they've already entered your journey. If they become a part of the segment at some point throughout, they will be kicked out, or they will stop participating in your journey. So this one is slightly different in that someone may have already gotten the first few communications, but they landed on a segment and now they will be exit and then stop participating. So some common scenarios that we see here are particularly around event registration. You may start a journey communicating out to your audience that you have an event, you want them to register, but you of course want to stop that message or kind of tailor that specifically if someone does register throughout. So this exit by segment is a great way to ensure that as soon as someone registers for your event, they are exited from your journey and you don't continue to bombard them with those messages. So those are a couple scenarios around exclusion segments. So we've discussed customizations around triggering your journey, how you may want to exclude certain audience members, either by entering or by making sure that they exit at some point. But what about some options to consider as your audience is actually moving through your journey? What actions can they take part in? So there are standard actions when you're building out your journey, such as sending them an email or adding in a wait condition. So this would be a setup if you're kind of setting up a standard email drip campaign. You send an email, you add a wait action for a week, you send another email. But there are some additional actions to consider here, such as creating out-of-the-box activities, such as tasks and phone calls, or even related sales records, so leads and opportunities. And these are activities that you can add in to build out within your journey. And so I'm actually going to pop into CRM for a moment just to show this. Perfect. So I'm going to go into my journeys area. And I have just a test journey here, and I'll just pop up a few of these actions. So I'm just going to click here and I'm going to add in create an opportunity. So here you can see these are all of the actions that are available to you to add to your journey. Activities up at the top here will include your standard phone call or task. But then over here from connectors, we have opportunity and lead. I'm going to create an opportunity just to show you this. So once you add in one of these actions into your journey, on the right-hand side, you will see some options for fields that you can actually populate to create these records. One kind of gotcha with this functionality, though, is that you are limited into what fields you can actually populate as you are adding these activities within your journey. So, for example, here, when I'm trying to create an opportunity record within this journey, I can only enter a topic. I can only decide who assign the owner of this opportunity, and you are limited to either choose the contact owner, so that contact who's going through your journey, you can assign the opportunity to them, to the contact's parent account owner, or to a specific user or team. And then finally, you can add in some notes, and this is going to map to the opportunity description. But that's it. You do not have the option to add in any date fields, for example, or any other related fields. So that's just one limitation to keep in mind across, adding opportunities, leads, phone calls or tasks, that you are limited to what fields are present on the editor window here. But a couple scenarios that you may want to consider adding in these sorts of records are things such as Perhaps you someone registers for an event, or they're receiving communication. So registers for an event, that's a trigger to start the journey. They receive some event related communications, and then maybe based off of an attribute on their contact record, you might identify them as a good an opportunity to sponsor your event. You may want to add in an activity here to create an opportunity for that person who registered, so that you are then prompted and have it in your pipeline to follow up on. Or you may want to create a task record at some point to hand off to remind a salesperson that, hey, there is this lead who submitted this web form. They expressed XYZ interest. Here's a task as a reminder to follow up with them. So what we find with these records in particular is that it really helps bridge the gap between sales and marketing teams, for example, and allows that kind of like, information sharing of the what's coming into marketing, while also helping with the sales team move forward as well. Awesome. And this next slide here is just kind of an example of what I showed, so you'll have that available. Perfect. And now just to tie all these components together within the context of journeys. So you may use your activity actions, you'll have your exclude or exit segments, and then your custom triggers within your journeys. One thing that we would love to highlight is whenever you can make things easier for yourself or for your team. And you now have the ability, this was GA as of March 2025, to create journey templates within customer insights. So this means that if you are creating some of complex journeys with some detailed branching, multiple actions, when someone goes to create a new journey, if you save that as a template, they will have the ability to create a journey using your template, as opposed to having to rebuild it each and every time. So it really helps to streamline that process for your team. And then, of course, once someone actually creates that journey, they will have to go in and maybe replace the segment, or maybe some specific emails to make sure they're referencing the right email. But the bones of that journey are there, which is a great value add. So I did want to highlight one thing here, though, with the templates. So I'm back on my journey. Let's say I wanted to save this this journey here as a template. There's a few branches, so maybe just make it a bit easier for the team. You can come to the journey and save as a template. You have to do it from the journey itself. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to save. And then from your navigation menu towards the bottom under assets, you'll find templates here. And one note here, I don't know if you haven't gone into this templates area lately, you'll see that you can find all of your templates here now. So your email templates, form templates, journey templates, and your task templates are all available here. I know sometimes, particularly with form templates, it was never really easy to figure out where those actually lived. So I'm glad that that's easily accessible now. So just on the note of journeys, though, if I come in here to my journey templates, you'll see that there's a few available. So all of these three templates here just mean that the next time someone else comes in to create a journey, they can select one of these. Just another kind of call out or gotcha with this, you cannot edit journey templates. So I can't come in here and make changes to the EB test template for my team to reuse later. Rather, you would use this to create a new journey. Any changes I make in that journey, I would need to save as a new template. So unfortunately, you can't edit the existing template. So that's just one thing to keep in mind to ensure to just if you're going to start using this functionality, you want to try to avoid duplicates, of course. So just one call out that although I think the benefit of having templates is great, it is slightly unfortunate that you aren't actually able to edit them yourself. So those are a few of the kind of key features or kind of maybe items within journeys that some folks may or may not be actively using. But now I'm going to hand it over to Haley to cover scenarios for forms and emails.
All right, let me get this set up here. Awesome. Am I sharing? We're good? Like that's always the question here. So awesome. We are gonna jump into forms here. One of the newer features that I don't think is in preview anymore is something called pre-fill, and a common expression used, well, I guess in marketing, but it started with geometry, is the shortest path between 2 points is a straight line. And I'm not a mathematician, but as a marketer, I want to provide the fastest, easiest way for somebody to take the action I want them to take. So pre-filling form fields really supports that goal. Any available field you can drag and drop onto the form can be auto-filled as long as that information is already on the record. So any known values in Dataverse. So an example here is somebody clicks a link in an email, and once they land on the page, any information is filled in. So here we have first name, last name, email, and I can't show you this like live because we can't send emails like through the demo, kind of watch the whole process. But in this case, the way that it works is at the bottom here, you'll see at the end of that link, there's a token in the URL, and that's derived from a link in the email. So the unfortunate like gotcha here, I guess, is if somebody receives your email and goes to your site and finds this page separately, their information won't automatically be filled in. They have to click a link from your marketing email, land on the page that has that form for their information to be filled in, and it has to be within 30 days of that email being sent. Otherwise, the link just kind of breaks, and that at least the tracking aspect of it won't be filled in. And we won't get into like compliance profiles and all of that, but the user would have needed to provide tracking consent, whether that's explicit or implied based on how your preference center is set up. I am sure, well, actually, there are more people on here that aren't using journeys than I was anticipating. So you all are going to be like, why was this not the case from the beginning? Because that's what we were all wondering. Before, you could only use mapped fields in forms. So you couldn't ask any like one-off questions. And now you can. You can add a qualifying question on your website contact form, like a long text box that says like share why you're reaching out, or select from this drop down what services you're interested in. But basically, unmapped form fields have an expiration date is the way that I kind of like to look at them. So once you get on a call with that person who sent you a message, that information is now old news because you're qualifying them based on what they're communicating to you on that call, and you don't really need it like forever on their record. So it's really for one-off questions, and it's stored in the form submissions area, not on the record, hence unmapped. And they can actually be used in journeys for branching, which is pretty cool too. And as of Monday, unmapped fields are actually now in preview for registration forms. And this is huge because one of the kind of number one use cases here would be somebody who has like dietary restrictions. So a use case in this scenario would be somebody registers for an in-person event and you need to collect additional information like one of these like dietary requirements. I'm vegan and gluten-free, so I think about these things. Well, and vegan, actually. It's a challenge. So yeah, you would click on the multi-select, like right here. I'm clicking on that multi-select icon and pulling it onto the form. And then I would name it and fill in my options, however many multi-selections that you need. And then it allows you to keep this information all kind of within that person's form submission without listing like all of this stuff on their record when they attended one event, like one particular year. A additional kind of preview feature in forms now is being able to save form fields. So instead of building that multi-select question every time you need it for different events, you can actually save it for future use. So after creating a new unmapped field like this one, you can click the Save Field option, which saves it under unmapped fields right here. And that allows you to now drag it and drop it into other forms as well. So in the same way that if I was to click the drop down arrow under contact and I could pull any fields from that, unmapped, you can have the same kind of listing and pull those onto whatever form that you need them for, whether that's a marketing form or event registrations now. And we are going to get into emails. This is a pretty cool feature that I have been playing around with quite a bit. So at this point with marketing, everybody kind of expects personalization. So from our names being included in the introduction of emails, to what we've recently viewed on a website or show interest in. I mean, sometimes it's a little creepy with how much information a company can gather about you. But it really makes for effective marketing, honestly. So keeping with the example of dietary restrictions, this is an example of how conditional content can be used for an in-person event email, like DynamicsCon, for instance. You can add a default view, which is no dietary restrictions. They don't get this block at all. And then if the condition is I think in this one, let's see, yeah, make condition on attributes. So if special dietary restrictions is not empty or contains data, then this will show a list of the dietary restrictions that they included, and if they have any additional ones, then they could email. So this is good for like event registration and, like I said, purchase history and like web page visits showing like, oh, you were interested in this, and kind of including that on different emails. So I'm going to get away from my food example and show you a pretty fun way that I have seen this kind of in my day-to-day that I really have liked. Can you guys, yeah, okay. So this is an example of the unmapped form field, and I didn't know how fast we were gonna talk, so I can always go back and demo some more of this stuff later here. So with the conditional content example, what we're gonna do is we're going to send, quote, this newsletter about upcoming events. And I don't want anyone who has already registered for one of the events to see that particular event. I only want them essentially to see new events that they haven't registered for. So I added a blank column here. What I'll do is add an image. Ideally, this would be a content block, but for the sake of time in this webinar, I'm just using images here. So Copilot, for once, intelligently showing me what I wanted to see. So here's the first event, and then I'm going to add an image for our second event right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the entire section, and then here you'll see I can enable conditional content. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to turn purple. So we have default, which is displaying the content as it is without any conditions being met. I want to add a condition here that says registered for Copilot crash course. Okay, and then my condition is going to be on an attribute, not a segment. And I'll choose marketing event registration created. So we've got our trigger, and then I'm going to reference the event. So this is like digging into Dataverse, and I'm actually going to make the condition on marketing event reference. And I'm going to say it equals this event from events planning. And then we will go ahead and save this. So now our condition is showing up here, but these are identical at the moment. I haven't changed anything about either of the sections. So I want the default to stay as is. So I'll do registered for Copilot Crash Course. And if that is true, I don't want that image displayed. So I'm going to delete it. But make sure you're not like deleting like the column. You want to remove like the content itself. So now when I toggle default, I see both. But if the condition is met, then they're only going to see the one that they haven't registered for. And you can make this a little bit more robust if you have like a ton of different events and you want to use some logic so that it's not, you're picking every single event by name. And the way this would work if we were to preview this is editing the data. So if it was me, and then I could use the conditional content on the side here and see what it looks like. So I have registered for Copilot Crash Course, so it's not going to show that to me. And then if that is not the case, then it'll show a default. If I was to send myself a test email though, I would just be seeing this right here. Okay, so hopefully that was a good example of how this can kind of be used outside of just event registration, and e-commerce in particular is probably a good example of conditional content as well. And next, we are going to look at editing emails. So I don't know how many people are like direct marketers on this call, but if you have ever sent an email and there was a misspelling in the subject line, or you messed up a date or something like that, it's always this like, oh my gosh, it's like heart attack moment. So before, you were literally not allowed to edit anything in Journeys. Once you clicked send, once it was used, like Emily said, with templates, it's kind of like, it is what it is. Hope you set it up right. Thankfully, with emails, you actually do have a little bit of flexibility here. And the screenshot here is just showing the, if there was some audit history, because this email isn't live, there isn't audit history because it hasn't been used in a journey, but you can actually edit quite a lot, which I was pretty surprised about. So from your subject lines and pre-header text to even some personalization, existing conditional content. Yeah, it's not just the visual aspects. I was thinking like, okay, maybe it would let us edit some text and images if like those are wrong, but you do have quite a bit of flexibility here. The caution I would say is whatever you change is going to influence your analytics after the fact. And it's not like analytics is going to parse out every time you made an audit what the difference was in the email engagement, basically. So, for instance, if you were to adjust a subject line, that can like really change what your open rate would be. So you don't want to start with one subject line and then 2 days later be like, actually I came up with a better one. Change your subject line. Now you've got dirty data because the first 2 days we're using one and now you're using a totally different one. I would use this sparingly if there like really is an error or something that warrants making a change. Ideally, there's a lot of Q&A that goes into emails before they get sent, but this is kind of like a good fail-safe there. And this audit history actually is newer. I'm glad that they have this too, so you can kind of keep track of what changed when, so you can kind of map that to what you're seeing in your analytics if it's pretty different. And then reusable content blocks. So one and done. I love this because my background is in design and I really like things to look nice. And sometimes it is just painfully time consuming to do that in the email editor. So I can come up with a design I really like for a section of our newsletter, for instance, and then save and drag and drop and use it in the future, similar to those save fields. You can do that with content blocks like this. So newsletter elements, you can do it for signature lines, you can use it for mobile layouts, which we'll talk a little bit later about. And it just makes designing your emails way more efficient, because yeah, this with all of like the lines and the buttons and like the different sizing, like that took a long time to make in the first place. And then having to do that for every single email would, yeah, just end up being a lot. And I am going to demo actually how you can use this in a pretty creative way that I kind of discovered and was like obsessed about. I think it is really useful in like sales scenarios specifically. So let's say that you want to send emails to leads that come directly from a salesperson. That's going to be challenging with the way that Journeys works, and you don't want it to look like it came from the marketer. Ideally, personalized emails that come from an individual are going to be better than if you use something that's very like beautiful and creative, which I like to do, but it's not always practical. So what we're going to do here is I'll explain how this can work with signature lines in content blocks. So it's kind of a combination of the two here. The way this works is you are pulling in personalized data from Dataverse. So, and I know we said we weren't going to get technical, and I'm realizing that I'm actually becoming quite technical with this. Let me go back here. So I'm just going to show you an example here with the email. So I would use personalization, go into new dynamic text, choose an attribute, lead. I would use the owning user of the lead is who I want the email to go to. And in their signature line, I want to include their primary internal email. And it's really important to label these well, so you like know kind of what path in the Dataverse you took to get this particular information. At least I find that's really helpful. So owning user, primary email, and then I want to make sure I know it's for a lead, because journeys have to be split by contact or lead. You can't send a journey to both, meaning I would need to create two different signature line content blocks to use this if I was to send it to a contact. Because as you can see, this personalization is going into a lead record, not contact. So I'll just put HB for a second there. Okay, so now we have our email down here. If I am to test this, oh, and I guess I won't do that, but you can link it to itself as well, so it's actually clickable. So if I'm going to edit the sample data, I'll look at myself as a lead, and the owning user in CRM for my lead is Allie Jameson. If this was to be in an email sent to Emily, she would receive an email from Jeff. And technically, it would be the signature line at the bottom of the email that would come from Jeff. The way that it would work for sending this email directly, so let's just put this into a practical use case here. So we're sending a plain text email to a lead. I have my content block that I pulled from over here. This is where you would find them. And if you were to send this directly from the lead owner, you could actually change this here, choose personalization and do the exact same thing, go into Dataverse and then find that owning user's email. And this would send directly from the lead owner. There are some like technical details, which like we won't get into, but as you can see, I'm going through Dataverse again, which is just painful. So a tip here, let's just say lead saved. You could actually do this drop down, save as, and then in the future, if Emily comes into here and wants to use the same field for something else, she could use personalization and then just grab that field from the drop down and not even have to waste her time jumping through Dataverse to figure out what I was actually doing. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how this can be utilized in the form of an email and just saving time. If you have their booking link saved somewhere in CRM, that's something you can also dynamically include. Okay, and then I guess the one thing that I didn't cover there was the personalization, or the you can have different designs for mobile. And I know we've got like 10 minutes left. So another painful part of creating email sometimes is mobile optimization. So just a quick example of how I've kind of worked around that in CIJ. If you've had that trouble, you can have two different designs for desktop and mobile by hiding elements using responsive design. So in this case, I'm using this for desktop only. I'm not showing it on mobile. If I was to show this on mobile, it would look kind of funky. So what I did is I created a mobile only version. So in this section, I'm hiding this, and then I created this mobile only version, which does not show up on desktop because it looks kind of weird on desktop. So if I was to preview and test, this would show up versus the desktop version. So that's just a quick kind of hack there when it comes to adjusting your content, and that can be used kind of across the board when you're developing content block or otherwise, hiding sections and using responsive design to show the right thing versus spending all of your time trying to get one section to look right in both scenarios, which it doesn't always work that way when you have stacking and columns and padding and things like that. So, all right, I think I am passing it over to Emily now.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, let me get situated once more. Geez, okay. Yeah, I know, because to that point, we do only have about 10 minutes left. So I am going to flip back and just to close off, actually. So before closing off, I did just want to mention a few things with the 2025 release wave 1. So this would have started already rolling out at the end of April until the end of September. So there are just a few items that we wanted to highlight here. But before jumping into that, we will have linked in this presentation a few areas of resources. So I did share in the chat the link to the learning path for customer insights journeys, but these are also linked as well. So we have both the Microsoft Release Planner for customer insights journeys. The What's New in CIJ is actually the monthly release. So CIJ technically does have a monthly release cadence as well, so you can update your application every month. And so this will list out what, if you do update, what will come with that. And then also, of course, with just anything Microsoft related, known issues. So there is a handy known issues page as well with some mitigation strategies. So that's available on Microsoft's website and then within the Learn doc. So all of this is linked in the presentation that we'll be sharing. So there were 3 items that are coming as part of the Wave 1 release that I thought were really great value adds. Haley touched on a few of them, particularly the custom unmapped form fields, which is honestly great. But one of the items that I'm really excited that's coming, and again, as we have listed here, and as I'm sure all of you on the call are aware, All of these dates are subject to change, but currently for general availability in July is the ability to use marketing interactions to orchestrate your journeys. So my understanding of this feature based on the release plans is that you will be able to branch your audience in your journey based on their interactions within your emails. For example, if they click on a link or if they open your email, you'll be able to add that as one of those actions within the journey and have them move through based off of that. So I think that's really exciting that that is hopefully coming in July. Next is the creation of event portals using Power Pages. So you may have noticed that we didn't actually touch on events really at all today. That could be its whole other session, honestly. But so this is in public preview now, and then GA is coming again tentatively in July. So for anyone who may have been using outbound marketing or using the old Angular framework event websites, this will be a massive improvement, I'm sure, on that. So think of the ability to host on Power Pages any events that you may be running, even webinars, and having your audience able to register for those, register for sessions, register for the events. So I do, and I also believe that there will be an option to have this portal hosted on your own website as well. Haven't personally had a chance to play with that yet, but or with this at all, to be frank, but I'm very excited for this capability to be coming. And then the last item that I think is quite exciting is the ability to pause and resume journeys. Right now, you only have the option to stop them, and then you would have to either copy and to have it go again, and then you would have to make sure that you're not resending to the same people and all of that. So the ability to pause if something comes up, if you want to maybe stop communications going through and then resume it, I think that will be great and much welcome. That's coming. So these were just a few. I know that there's definitely more that's coming. So as mentioned, check out the release planner and the CIJ monthly release notes if you are a user or if you are interested in wanting to see what features may be coming down the pipe. But with that actually wraps up our presentation for today. We do hope, I know that was a lot, and to Haley's point, I know that it's kind of a mixed bag of folks who might be using CIJ and then some who are new to it or considering. So even for those who might not be using it, I hope that there was maybe some things that you piqued your interest. But thank you for attending, and I'll leave it there for any questions.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, ladies. Lots of really good information. Someone who's considering and exploring the opportunity to move. This gave me a lot to think about and a lot to take back to our marketing team. So thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and I will both put it, but feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn if and reach out with any questions as well. Yeah, we always love chatting with people. This is like our bread and butter, so it's always so fun to chat through all this fun stuff with everyone. Yeah, and especially CIJ, I feel there's always something that comes up with it. So awesome.
It's always good to have other people to talk to about it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, commiserate in some instances. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So user groups are great for.
Yeah, exactly. I will stop sharing.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. Looking forward to seeing anyone who's going to Chicago next week there, and also Toronto in June. So if you haven't signed up for either of those, there's still time, and I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great rest of your week, everyone, and a great weekend. Thanks again, Emily and Haley.
Yeah, nice to see everyone. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.